Good afternoon, members, and welcome back. Okay, we're going to go to agenda item number 10 now, which is the schedule for remuneration. Quite hard to say that, isn't it? And that's the report of the Chief Officer of Governance, Gareth Owen.
Steve,
who I think
Mr. Goodrum will take the report.
Mr. Goodrum's going to take this. I do remember that.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. This report is one we need to bring to Council in July to ensure we publish the schedule of remuneration in accordance with the now Democracy and Boundary Commission Cymru's requirements. What it basically outlines in Appendix 1 are the payments that we intend to make to members for the current civic year. And they're all based around the annual report that the Democracy and Boundary Commission Cymru states in their annual report, which goes to before the Constitution and Democratic Services Committee in March annually. We just need to make sure that we publish this by the end of the month, so that's why it's coming to the Council today for your note and approval. We do provide or publish an actual summary of payments made to members for the previous year in September. This is separate, so this is just the based around the DBCC annual report. It has been updated, so it's current, because there have been a number of changes and that they are reflected within the document as well. So the vacancies, etc., are all noted within the document. And just for members' attention to paragraph 103, that there are some allowances that the DBCC, the former the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales, introduced to encourage more representation and encourage people to become elected members. So some allowances are designed to facilitate that, such as the carers allowance, which we don't publish individual amounts. We publish the total amount that the council has paid. So if members can claim that in their choice if they choose to. And the Appendix 1 follows the template laid down by what was the IRPW, but now the DBCC. They set the template, and again that's been refreshed with the current allowances they pay, but also the refresh rates from the HMRC. So the new they've increased the mileage claim rate for petrol vehicles to 55 pence per mile. So there are some minor tweaks in there, but nothing significant. But I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Councillor David Coggins-Cogan.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you to the Democratic Services Manager. On page 166, I'm just going to use the title because I don't want to personalise it, but the Chair of the Clwyd Pension Fund Committee, it says that a senior salary is paid. Because the senior salary bit isn't capitalised, it could just refer to a salary that is senior rather than a senior salary is identified in here. Because this is essentially a transparency document, for next year, would it be worth adding that senior salary in, even though it's paid by a different authority, just for full transparency, just so we all know what's what, and the member of the public who are reading it would know as well? Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Chair, we can take that on board, but I think the Democracy and Boundary Commission Cymru are looking at how they the framework, etc. Anyway, so that it may well change for next year, but we will take the comments on board.
Councillor Ian Hodge.
Thank you, Chair. This came before Constitution and Democratic Services Committee in November last year. I chaired that committee and it was approved. Therefore, I would like to move the recommendation.
Was that to second? Sorry, Councillor Hodge. I think Councillor Coggins-Cogan moved it. So
no, we didn't, Chair.
Oh, you didn't? Oh. Okay, so apologies, Councillor Hodge. That's been moved by Councillor Hodge. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Coggins-Cogan.
Yes, Chair, I would like to second this. Councillor Hodge was the de facto chair of the committee, as the late Councillor Hilary McGill was too poorly to continue in her role. Council has now appointed me to take over in that role. And so I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Councillor Hodge for leaving the committee in a better state than he found it, and it's made my job considerably easier taking it on. Thank you, Chair.
Do we have anybody who'd like to speak on the item? No? We go straight to the vote then. Yeah, so the recommendation is that the completed schedule of remuneration for 2026-27 as attached be approved for publication. A show of hands, please, for everybody in favour of that.
Certainly everybody in the room, Chair. And online, Chair?
Show of hands online, sorry.
I think that's everybody online as well, Chair. Thank you. So that's unanimous, Chair.
So that's unanimous, and that's carried. Thank you very much. So move on to ordinary items of business now. Item number 11 is petitions received at council. You can find them on pages 171 to 178, and this is the report of Steve Goodrum.
Thank you, Chair. And this is a report we bring back to council twice a year, just to give members an update on petitions that have been submitted through the floor at council. As it says in the title, petitions raised at council. So any member who brings a petition to council to present, this report captures those. We changed it last time because we previously reported in the current or the previous year, previous 12 months. What we found was there were some petitions that were sort of hanging over from previous years that were effectively dropped off. So we include those now in this report. And they are listed in paragraph 102 with an update on what the situation is with those. So any petition that doesn't reach conclusion in the current year will be reported or updated in the following year. One point to note is that there are other mechanisms to submit petitions to council which are not captured within this report. So what we will look to do is to sort of expand the scope of the report to capture those as well, so that we have a one report for all. And what we may look to do in the future is sort of change the format slightly. So we introduce an appendix with the petitions listed on there in date order with updates, so it's easy to reference rather than just list them all in 102. Because paragraph 102 could get quite lengthy and confusing for the reader. But I'm happy to take any questions on the content, Chair.
Councillor Ian Hodge. No.
If there's anybody wish to speak, is there a mover or a seconder, Chair?
Okay, is there a mover or a seconder then, please? Councillor Hodge.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to recommend the motion, please. Or recommend the recommendation, whatever it is. Move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hodge. Councillor Cogan, could you just pop the microphone off, please, Councillor Hodge? Thank you. And Councillor Mike Pearce online, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the annual summary, as it were. I think it would be useful for members if we had some dates as petitions progress. As an example, under 102, we have the 3rd of December 25, and 7 months on, it doesn't appear to be resolved. It would be useful to have a date received and a date when it might be resolved and what's been happening in the meantime. For Meadow Villas in Greenfield, 22nd of the 7th, 24. That's going back quite a bit. Doesn't formally say whether it's resolved, but I would assume it is by now. And the report doesn't advise whether the residents would be prepared to bring the road to an adopted standard. It says that they were consulted. But I think, going forward, you need a conclusion as to, yes, they were consulted and the outcome was no, they don't wish to adopt it, or it's going forward. So I think we just need a bit more information in there. And finally, the 24th of the 9th, 24, the speed of the traffic on the A5119, I think that was Flint Mountain. Again, can dates be added? It talks about initial response from the portfolio. So when was that? And then there's an additional response from the portfolio. And has the petition been resolved? So I think to go through this, I think you need dates so you can have a look at how it's been progressing or whether there's been delays anywhere. The dates will be available. I think you just need putting in the report. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Pearce, for that. And that's a fair point. And what I did sort of allude to in the commentary, that we'll look to how we present this report in the future. So to include an appendix rather than in the body of the report, so we can include those elements that you suggest there, like dates of updates, etc. So we will take that on board and ensure that it's amended for the next presentation.
Okay, Councillor Ibbotson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I invite members to turn to page 174, 175 of the document pack, where on the 4th of December 2024, there is a reference to a petition that was presented by myself on behalf of residents of my ward and further afield, who are concerned about the school transport policy and the way in which children are not eligible for transport to the school which they attend, when it is perfectly reasonable that they should be able to. Now, if we move on to page 175, it says, and I quote, "The recommendations of the Task and Finish Group were presented to Cabinet on the 24th of March 2026 with the following recommendations made," and then it lists 2 of them. Those were not the recommendations made to Cabinet on that day. The recommendations made to Cabinet were that wide-ranging changes should be introduced to the school transport policy. They were changes to introduce eligibility in cases of exceptional hardship. They were changes to ensure that faith schools entitlement is compliant with equalities law. They were changes to allow children who attend vocational training and education are able to access education on the same basis as those who go for academic qualifications. And they were recommendations to ensure that when children attend a school where there is a bus that goes past their house, they are able to get on that bus and not excluded from it. Those were the recommendations that were presented to Cabinet, not the 2 that are in the report. What is in the report is the motion that Cabinet passed, not what was recommended to it. Because at that point in March, Cabinet decided to sit on these recommendations and not take them forward in a timely manner so that the statutory consultation could be put out and that changes, which were supported by a long, deliberative cross-party process in the working group, be taken forward, that the concerns of residents through this petition be taken forward. Instead, they're sitting on it until we're past the statutory timescales so that they can kick the can down the road to September 2028, when it will be another administration's responsibility. That is morally bankrupt. But more to the point of this report, what is in the report is the motion that Cabinet choose to pass in what is a blatant dereliction of their duty to address the concerns raised by members of the public and members of this council, and it is not the recommendations that came from the body. And I am very, very keen, because colleagues from my side of the chamber and from the administration's side agonised for months over the school transport policy recommendations. Officers contributed hugely to that work, and I pay tribute to them as well. And for the blame for this to be placed at their door is wrong. And I will not have the Cabinet attempt to hide behind the fig leaf of the work of people who have put in every effort to advance this issue to,
Is it a point of order, councillor Banks?
So, yeah. But the point of
What do
order,
I-
is this a petition? Am I on petitions or am I on different?
We're discussing the petitions that were received. It's
Yeah, it's a
item number
petition.
11. It's not a point of
He's
order.
turning it into a cabinet agenda item. It's a petition. He should supposed to be raising the petition.
Sit down,
Not going
please,
on about-
councillor Banks. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I note it's a recurring theme for Cabinet members to make bogus points of order that are not during my contributions, and I would ask that you consider introducing some sanctions against them if they continue, because it is simply not on. I will not have the Cabinet hide behind
Councillor
the big...
Ibbotson, can I just remind you that's my job to determine that, not yours. Thank you.
I will not have the Cabinet hide behind the fig leaf of the work of members across this chamber and officers who have put forward very carefully considered recommendations to make the lives of children in this county better when they are abdicating responsibility. And I think that it is important that as we consider this report, that is made absolutely clear. People are watching.
Chair, if I may, I think the issue is the way the sentence is phrased. The sentence says the recommendations of the task and finish group were presented to Cabinet on the 24th of March, which they were, with the following recommendations made. Well, but I can understand where councillor is coming from, that this implies that Cabinet may receive those from that wasn't the case. What I think it's the language used in terms of phrasing that sort of state, that sentence, which should have had probably a semicolon or two separate sentences saying that the recommendations were presented to Cabinet, full stop, and well, so I'm trying to say is that it's not factually incorrect, the report.
Sorry, Mr. Goodrum, I could just remind you, councillor Ibbotson, it's not a discussion between yourself and Steve. Thank you.
It's the phrasing of the wording in the sentence that is the issue, not the actual fact that we've missed things out, or we could have added them in, I guess. But at the moment, it's the way that sentence is phrased rather than the being factually incorrect. Is my view, Chair, and we can look at how we present that item in the subsequent appendix to ensure that the recommendations from the task and group are included, as well as recommendations from or the motion, as you say, from Cabinet. So it's just the way that it's been phrased. So apologies for that, and if causing the confusion there.
Councillor Meredith Eastwood.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Just to give clarification and assurance that all the recommendations put forward by the Task and Finish Group were considered by Cabinet. As we've previously discussed within this chamber about how we need meaningful, transparent consultations, and that includes the financial implications of the different options that we're consulting on. So I give my assurance that those costings, together with an equality impact, is being worked on currently as fast as resources within the department allows. And that's the purpose of that, is to have a full and effective, meaningful, transparent consultation.
Thank you. Any more speakers before we move to the vote? Councillor Richard Lloyd.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask a general question regarding petitions received at council? The general question is, if a resident came to you as a councillor, which was in a ward, which was not in your ward, to hand a petition in on behalf of a particular subject, would it be appropriate for you to hand a petition in from a ward that wasn't your ward? Thank you.
That would probably depend on, you'd have the conversation with the resident as to why they've approached a specific member and not their ward member. And I would suggest that the ward member protocol would sort of be triggered in that regard, because you need to make the ward member aware that's happened. So I suppose it's a negotiating or discussion with the individual who's submitting that petition as to why they've approached one and not the other, and refer them back. I would suggest would be the appropriate way forward, unless there's an overriding reason why not.
So what you're saying is, Mr. Graham.
Sorry, Councillor Lloyd, you've spoken once.
Oh, it's
sorry.
a clarification of that answer, really, Chair. So what you're saying is, as a matter
Councillor Lloyd, please don't allow
they would
feedback
ask
to the cherry.
member.
Any more speakers? No, we'll go straight to the vote then. So the recommendation is that the council notes the report. All those in favour in the room, please raise your hand.
I think that's everybody in the room. Chair.
Those online in favour, please raise your hand.
That's not quite everybody online.
Right. Any against online, please raise your hand. And any abstentions?
Okay, so all bar 2 people, Chair, which I think brings it to 58 in favour. I'm not sure everybody voted, Chair. Apologies if I missed anybody's hand that did vote. It wouldn't make a difference to the outcome.
Right, so that's carried. Thank you. Turn myself off then. Agenda item number 12. These are the notice of motions. I'm going to allot times for each notice of motion, as there are 5 of them, and we have scheduled approximately 2 hours to discuss and debate these. I hope we won't take the full 2 hours. It's not a target for you all to think, actually, we've got time left on this one. Well, I'll take that time. But hopefully we can move through these in a much better manner than what was done this morning, and more orderly. And I'll take them in order of what they're in my agenda pack. And I invite Councillor Andrew Parkhurst to bring the first notice of motion, is the loss of confidence, halt the schools closure consultation. Councillor Parkhurst.
Diolch, Chair, and I shall try to be succinct. This motion is not about whether St Anthony's, St David's, St Mary's or St Richard Gwyn should ultimately remain open or close. That is a debate for another day. Today is about something much more fundamental. It is about whether this council has sufficient confidence in the current consultation process to allow it to continue. The previous consultation generated overwhelming public concern. It also resulted in legal challenges that raised sufficient issues for the council to abandon the process and start again. Yet neither the Education, Youth and Culture Overview and Scrutiny Committee nor this council has ever been given the opportunity to understand why that consultation failed or what legal advice led to the decision to restart it. Members are therefore being asked to support a fresh consultation without knowing what went wrong the first time or whether those issues have genuinely been addressed. That is not good governance. The School Organisation Code is clear. Consultation should take place while proposals remain at a formative stage. It should provide sufficient information to enable intelligent consideration and response. It also expects proposers to achieve high standards in the information presented and warns that errors in detail can easily undermine confidence in a proposal. That confidence has already been damaged. The financial information remains incomplete. We're told that the 55 million figure is indicative and that further costs may arise. Or what is the likely overall cost? Is it 55 million or is it perhaps more, up to 100 million, once borrowing costs are included? People are entitled to understand the financial consequences before being asked for their views. The education case also continues to raise important questions. During the previous consultation, Estin expressed reservations, yet those concerns have not been addressed. Questions also remain about transporting very young children over greater distances and about the implications for children living in Wales losing access to a Catholic education in Wales. There are also unanswered questions regarding the discussions between the diocese and the council over the future ownership and use of the land associated with these proposals. The Education Scrutiny Committee was told one thing, and now something rather different is presented. Which is it? The Nolan principles require from councillors openness and accountability because public confidence depends on them. but many feel that those essential principles are not on view here. There is also an increasing perception that the outcome has already been decided. Residents are repeatedly told that no decision has been made, yet governors have been told that no alternative options were considered because this is a, quote, strategic decision, unquote. That perception is reinforced by the consultation document itself. On page 32, the only alternatives presented are to maintain the status quo, which is dismissed, and the council's preferred proposal. There is no assessment of other realistic options, no explanation of why they were discounted, and no options appraisal showing how Cabinet concluded that this was the best solution. Whether members agree with the proposal or not, that is a perfectly legitimate question to ask. Confidence has also been undermined further by the practical handling of the consultation. The School Organisation Code requires consultation documents to be published and made publicly accessible. Yet until earlier this week, members of the public visiting the Council's consultation and engagement website, the obvious place to find them, would not have found the consultation documents because they were not there. And if you don't believe me, here is the screen print to prove it. Only after this omission was highlighted was a link added. Before then, the documents were buried within an obscure section of the Council's website, so whilst statutory consultees might have been aware of their location, other members of the public would have struggled to find them. So this means that the requirements to have at least 42 days to respond, including 20 school days, has not been met. And at the same time, some residents have waited weeks for hard copies of the consultation documents they requested and still not received them. This may appear to be administrative issues, but together they create the impression that public consultation is becoming a procedural hurdle rather than a genuine opportunity to influence the outcome. Members, this motion does not seek to stop the consultation, it seeks to restore confidence in it. It simply asks Cabinet to pause, explain why the previous consultation had to be abandoned, demonstrate what has changed, allow proper scrutiny, and then proceed with a consultation that is capable of commanding public confidence. But it's not an unreasonable request, it is good governance. If this consultation continues without those questions being answered, there is a real risk of further legal challenge, further delay, unnecessary cost, and further damage to the Council's reputation. We owe our residents, and especially the pupils, families, staff and governors affected by these proposals, a process that is transparent, robust and commands public confidence. For those reasons,
So you've gone over time there, Councillor
to support this motion, and I request a recorded vote.
Got online? We have two, so we've reached the necessary 10.
Councillor Hoggins-Cogan, you to second this, I believe.
Yes, Chair, and I reserve my right to speak until later in the debate. Thank you. And I will speak very briefly when I do.
You indicate to speak.
Councillor Marad Eastwards.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Thank you, and diolch for raising the issue of public confidence. This is clearly a matter we all take seriously. However, I would challenge the narrative that restarting the consultation has fundamentally damaged confidence. In fact, the opposite case can reasonably be made. First, restarting the consultation demonstrates that the Council is prepared to listen, reflect, and act when concerns arise about process or engagement. Rather than proceeding with a process that may have been perceived as flawed or incomplete, we have chosen to reset and ensure it is a robust, transparent, and inclusive. This is a sign of accountability, not failure. Second, public trust is not built on rigidly sticking to a process regardless of valid concerns. It is built on responsiveness. By reopening consultation, we are explicitly giving residents and stakeholders a renewed opportunity to have their voices heard, particularly if they have felt previously excluded or unclear about the proposal. Third, it is important to distinguish between short-term frustration and long-term confidence. While restarting may cause delay or inconvenience, the long-term outcome of better engagement, clearer information and more defensible decision-making ultimately strengthens confidence in the Council's governance. Finally, had we not restarted the consultation in light of the issues raised, we would likely face far greater criticism that we ignored feedback, rushed decisions, or failed in our duty to engage properly. We now have the opportunity in the revised consultation to address concerns raised during the initial consultation and also comply with the new Schools Organisation Code of 2026. In the context of potential school closures, delaying consultation sends entirely the wrong signal. It risks suggesting that the Council is avoiding scrutiny, uncertain about its own process, and unwilling to re-engage openly with those most affected. In my view, that would do far more damage to public confidence than continue to move forward with a strengthened and transparent consultation. It is in the interest for all concerned that the proposal, the reasons for which have not changed, is properly and fully considered. Thousands of people stand to benefit from this proposal should it be implemented, and we owe it to them to ensure the proposal is fully considered prior to any decision being made. Halting or delaying the process in these circumstances would be the greater failure. We must not lose sight of the wider school planning realities that sit behind this proposal. There are significant surplus places in the system which are neither educationally nor financially sustainable. There is funding inequity, where resources are stretched across too many surplus places, ultimately limiting what can be invested in pupils' education across the entire school network, impacting on the schools in all of our wards. And there are ageing school buildings requiring increasing levels of maintenance and capital investment that are difficult to justify where demand is falling. These are not abstract issues. They directly affect the quality of education we can provide across the whole area of Flintshire. Pausing or abandoning consultation does not make these underlying issues disappear. It simply delays addressing them and prolongs uncertainty for everyone involved. And that uncertainty has real consequences. Pupils face ongoing instability about their educational future, staff are left in prolonged anxiety about their roles, and parents and communities are unable to plan with clarity. That is not in anyone's best interest. The restart should not be seen as a loss of confidence, but as a necessary step to restore and strengthen it. What matters now is that we deliver a consultation process that is clear, accessible, and generally responsive so that the final decision carries the confidence of both members and the public.
Councillor Linda Thew.
Sorry, I didn't put my hand up for that. I put my hand up to vote for the recorded vote.
Right. Sorry about that. It's twice I've called you and you didn't want to speak.
That was my mistake, Chair. I saw Councillor Thew indicating and thought she was indicating.
Councillor Priest.
Oops. Thank you, Chair. I actually wasn't going to speak today, but I feel I must. We've discussed this numerous times at the Scrutiny Committee for Education, and I feel our voice has not been heard. The majority of the committee wanted a halt for this. They wanted it to be a reset for people to look, and the feel of it was that we needed time for people to understand and see what went wrong with the other one, not to dive straight into another consultation without the process of stop, do a recess, and look at the process of what's gone on and what went wrong and why were people so against it or for it. What were the reasons behind it? And you can only do that if you assess the process that took place in the consultation. That's what you need to do. And I felt, and as other people on the committee felt the same as myself, those who had been at all of the meetings, not who were substituted at the last meeting. I think we had 7 substitutions, including the chair of that meeting was a substitute. So the majority of the people who were voting against what the people who had been on this committee for years were looking forward to were outvoted by people who had never been on the committee, who had been on the committee a few times. So the feeling behind the people who have been on that education and have listened to all the points that everybody has brought forward, we, you know, when I've spoken to other people, they want a pause, they want a reflection, they want that time to be considered of what went wrong with it, and for people to take on board those mistakes and to then take the process forward for a proper, in-depth consultation, not to rush into it and not to leave that all behind the door. Oh, that doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, because this is people's futures. This is children that we've been talking about. At every single one of our meetings, we have spoken about the safeguarding. There's loads of issues with what's going on, but we need a proper consultation, and it needs to be halted so that that can be looked at correctly. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Lister.
Diolch, Prynhawn da pawb. So yes, I am here and speaking as a Flintshire County councillor, but I'm also the mother of young children and someone who feels incredibly sorry for the families, the pupils, the staff and the governors who have been left facing continued uncertainty about the future of their schools. Whatever view you might take on the proposals themselves, the process has already caused a significant amount of stress. Families are trying to make plans for their children, as we all do, while the future of their schools remain unclear. And that's a really unfair position to leave people in for such a long period of time. The previous consultation was stopped, and we were told that was because of a legal challenge. But since then, and I'm speaking on a very similar vein to Councillor Pree, since then there's been very little clear information explaining what went wrong, what concerns were raised, and most importantly, what's being done differently this time to ensure that the process is lawful and it's fair and it's robust. And before asking families and staff and communities to go through this process all over again, the council needs to show that it's learned something from the previous failed consultation, and that hasn't happened through scrutiny, which is why this notice of motion is brought today. At the moment, public confidence is low. The level of stress on families and staff is very high. Simply restarting the consultation without setting out first what has changed is not good enough. And are we likely to be restarting a third consultation in a few months' time following a further legal challenge? So it's for those reasons that I will support this motion. Thank you.
I can't see anybody else indicating to speak. I know I can come back to you, Councillor Coggins-Cogan, actually. Councillor Richard Lloyd's hand has just got up, so I'll bring him in.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Thank you. The agenda item states that this is to halt the school's consultation. As Councillor Parker said, it's nothing to do with the school's closing. My residents and Councillor Shawcott's residents, I think they deserve to have a consultation because we need to know what they have to say. You know, what would be the consequences if this consultation didn't go ahead? You know, what's the next steps to have? Where do we go from here? So it's important that their views are heard, and they should be heard now, not put off again and again and again. The consultation is there, and they have the opportunity to put their views forward. And that's, I can't agree with the notice of motion. There's certain things I do agree with. I don't agree with it all. So unfortunately, I can't support it at this time. Thank you.
Councillor Mike Pearce online, please.
Right, thank you, Chair. The previous consultation resulted in an overwhelming vote against the proposals. Sort of instead of listening and acting upon the overwhelming vote, Cabinet are now proposing to put another consultation out. Is that because they didn't accept the vote, the overwhelming vote? So here we go again. And if there is another overwhelming vote against these proposals, are they going to listen next time, or will they carry on regardless? Councillor Lloyd has just said that he wants the consultation so that residents' views can be considered. But as we've seen, the views were not considered last time, so what's going to be different this time? Thank you.
Councillor Richard Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
this is a proper consultation and nothing has been rushed as has been outlined by some of the members. It was halted due to limitations in time. And I think it's worth mentioning that by restarting and resetting this consultation in the way that it's been done, we're actually showing a commitment to the people who need to be consulted, which is the general public and others. So this isn't a sign of frailty or being flawed in any way. This is a sign that we are accountable to those people who are being consulted. That's what we're doing here. The only reason that there was a gap was because there was no time to continue that consultation. It was reset and it's been restarted to get the views of those people that we need to get them from. It doesn't belong here. It belongs to the people who are going to be consulted, and that's where it should lie. So I'm against this motion.
Councillor Gina Madsen.
Thank you, Chair. There has been a reference to substitutions at Education, Youth and Culture Committee, at which I'm Vice Chair. I myself was substituted at the last meeting because I was unwell with bronchitis and pneumonia, and I thank all of those who sent you good wishes. Sent me good wishes. There was a reference to the chair being substituted. The chair is off long-term sick. I object to that reference. Thank you.
Councillor Paul Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. It's very difficult. I believe this motion so far has been very thoroughly discussed. The proposers certainly reiterate the lines of argument and debate which have been heard regularly in this chamber, in the full council, in overview and scrutiny committees, in calling meetings, and in questions to cabinet members. I doubt that any member sitting down here is unfamiliar with any of the arguments which have been placed. Consequently, I would like to move a closure motion. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Johnson, I didn't quite catch what you...
Sorry, I would like to move a closed motion, having about preparation.
If we have a variety of motions that are closure motions, as they're called, I think the one in this case would be, I think, is it that the question now be put and you're looking that we move to the vote, Councillor Johnson?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. So, Chair, if such a motion is put and it is seconded, and I don't know, I haven't heard a seconder for that yet, Chair. Okay, it's seconded. Then, Chair, if you think that the item has been sufficiently discussed, you will put the procedure motion to the vote. If it is passed, you will give the mover of the original motion a right of reply. Now, in this case, Councillor Coggins-Cogan has also reserved his right to speak. So you would need to give Councillor Coggins-Cogan his opportunity to speak as well, Chair. Okay. So that's the situation, Chair. Do you think the matter has been sufficiently discussed?
I did have one more speaker, and it was just one more speaker on the list, which I was just going to let in. And Councillor Priest, you indicated you had a point of
personal explanation.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. Just to clarify, when I was talking about substitutions, it was never aimed at anybody who's on long-term sick whatsoever. It was aimed at the point that even the chair of the meeting was a substitute, that they were voted in. They weren't a permanent member of that committee. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
The chair and vice chair were both there.
Yeah, unfortunately, the vice and the chair were both not well on that occasion. So. And so I'm just going to take the last speaker on my list, which is Councillor Marshall, to speak on this. I can see hand raised, Councillor Ibbotson. Very quickly.
Madam Chair, I was indicating to speak, but I was also indicating to request a recorded vote on the closure motion if it is to be put to a vote, because I think that for the administration to be seeking to suppress debate on this, for the Cabinet to be doing so, is
Councillor
recorded.
Sorry, David. Councillor Ibbotson, it's not suppressing debate. I did say at the outset of these notice of motions, we would like to get through them, not to delay or dilly-dally or whatever other words, and prolong them all afternoon, drag them out, when I think everyone has, you know, they're having their opinion on them. A lot of people are saying the same opinions also. So I'm going to take one more speaker and then we will go to the vote. Councillor Marshall.
I participated in and watched the live and recorded webcast meetings to keep up to date with what is happening on the Catholic schools reorganisation. I've heard the debates relating to the cost to taxpayers of providing the new school at Flint and the potential disruption to pupils who would have to travel further to attend school. I've heard the debates about keeping the ageing schools with many vacant places and potentially high repair and maintenance costs open. The resulting cost per pupil at these schools is far higher than the average at other schools. The focus of the objectors is mainly related to the high cost of the new building and not on what service or benefits it provides to the children and residents of Flintshire. In my hand, I have a masonry drill bit. It cost me around £5. I didn't buy it because I wanted a drill bit. I bought it because I wanted holes. Once I made my holes, I could give it away or lend it to somebody for them to make holes. I could ask for it back if I wanted to make more holes. At home, I have an old camera that uses a film. I bought it because I wanted memories that I could show to others and to remind me of the good times. In my hand now, I have an iPhone 17 mobile phone. I bought it because I wanted to communicate, take photos and memories, tell people what I'm up to, as well as seeing what they're up to. I use it as a calculator and as a sat-nav to take me to different fine places with extreme accuracy. I'm not going to give my phone away, though. I didn't buy any of these things just to have them. I bought them for what they allow me to do with them. Solving problems requires looking at it from different viewpoints. Take this drink can as an example. If I hold it this way, it looks like a rectangle. If I hold it this way, it looks like a disc. If I hold it this way, it looks like a cylinder. The same item, different viewpoints. The Welsh word for church is eglwys, which comes from the Greek word ecclesia, which refers to an assembly or gathering of people responding to God's call, not to building. The church is therefore the people and not the building. I suggest that the same goes for schools. You can do nothing with an empty school building unless there are people inside it, teaching, coaching, mentoring, learning, playing, and socially interacting. Not all the children are Catholic. However, they are all the children of Flintshire, so the council cannot abdicate responsibility for their education. So, what would the new Catholic school allow us to do? These are just a few points. For pupils, it allows larger friendship groups, seamless transition from primary to secondary to sixth form, provision for additional learning needs, reduced incentive for homeschooling, a technologically advanced environment to prepare them for the outside world after schooling, children to be enthused and engaged in their learning. For teachers, it allows single-year classes that reduce workload and stress, a better working environment, more opportunities for development, reduced staff turnover, FCC to be an attractive place for the education workforce, making a positive impact on recruitment and retention, staff to feel valued and enthused, improves well-being and resilience to remain in the workforce. For industry and professional institutions, it provides a source of educated young people to join their workforce. It will be a source of engineers, inventors, entrepreneurs for the investment zone, doctors, dentists, nurses for the health infrastructure, architects and construction workers to build new homes. maybe it could produce some county councillors. For Flintshire, removal of ageing and half-empty buildings reduces financial inefficiency in the system and allows increased funding for all FCC schools and learners because the funding can be more equitably spread. Contributes to FCC carbon reduction strategy because the new buildings will be net zero in operation and takes old carbon heavy and inefficient buildings out of the network. We have just experienced the hottest June ever recorded. What if this was to be the cruelest June for the rest of our lives? How would the children and teachers survive in 70-year-old buildings? Much has already been said about the high cost of the school in today's money. There are about
20 seconds left, Councillor Marshall.
18,250 todays in 50 years. Due to inflation, tomorrow's money is worth less than it is today. So in 50 years' time, today's money will be worth significantly less. Let's concentrate on what the new school will do for our younger generation and not on the cost of the bricks and mortar. Let's continue with the statutory consultation and hopefully get more of the 155,000 Flintshire residents to respond because it affects all of them.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. Other mobile phone brands are available as well. Okay, so we're going to vote on the closure motion right there, and I think Councillor Ibbotson indicated he'd like a recorded vote on that. So yeah, I mean, it is the close of the debate anyway now, so would Councillor Johnson be happy to withdraw the proposed closure motion, because we are going to go to the vote anyway? Thank you.
Okay, so it's David and then Andrew.
Okay, so Councillor Coggins-Cogan.
Thank you, Chair. There have been some interesting contributions. I think probably where a lot of the people needed to start was item 10, which says, publish a short report explaining why the consultation should be restarted and what steps have been taken to restore public confidence in the process. The issue at stake in this notice of motion is not the schools closing. It's not a telephone in my hand or a drink cup. I can't remember where we went with that one. We went on a bit. The issue is, why did the consultation close in the first place? Why that process stopped and why we're having to rerun it? That's what we want to know. This doesn't have any significant bearing on the school process because we just want to know this information at the beginning. The Cabinet Member for Education gave a superb answer to the motion. Unfortunately, it was an answer that was not posed. The question was not posed in the motion. The council is listening, and that's why it restarted. No, it is not. As the Cabinet Member knows, it was restarted because parents who felt ignored and demonstrably were ignored had to issue a legal challenge. That's what stopped the process. Up until then, the council was marching along. The Cabinet was marching along with no regard to how people had responded to the consultation. Councillor Lloyd made a good point about this is the residents' chance to listen. It is. But for the fact they have already spoken, perhaps Councillor Lloyd should have listened the first time when 96% of respondents, maybe Councillor Lloyd needs to listen now, 96% of respondents said no. They do not want the heart of their communities ripped out and sent to the other side of the county. Councillor Priest made a very good point about substitutions on the Education Committee. Earlier in today's meeting, we have discussed the value of having a consistency of membership on committees. It builds up experience, it builds up knowledge, and we have an institutional memory that we can be drawn upon. This is one of the biggest capital projects we are looking at, and yet the majority of the committee were subbed in and just made decisions seemingly along party lines. That is how it looked to the public. That is why the public have no confidence. I really do, I'm afraid, have to take exception with the concept of net zero in operation. It's only net zero in operation if you exclude all the bits that are causing carbon dioxide, which is, I don't know, maybe numerous buses taking children back and forth, crisscrossing the county twice a day. It is a ridiculous idea to say this is net zero when it demonstrably is not. Include all those bus journeys, it is not net zero. And in closing, I would say that it's a complete fallacy to say it doesn't matter how much we spend today because tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, it'll be worth less. It's a facetious point to make. If that's the case, why don't we spend £250 million on the school? Because it'll be worth less, so it doesn't matter. The problem is this money that we're spending, which is going to cost the public purse £77 million, that's if it went ahead today. If we had spades in the ground today, it would cost £77 million to the public purse. I'm sure the children and grandchildren won't be happy with the comments that have been made because they're the ones that will be paying for this. In 50 years' time, they will be paying this up until 2076 at least. This is a bonkers proposal. However, the issue at heart is why was the consultation stopped? Why are we rerunning it? That has not been answered. It has been repeatedly asked for in scrutiny committee, in this chamber. We have not had the answer. That's the core of this motion, and I would ask the cabinet member to reflect and just for once to answer the question that is asked. Thank you.
Councillor Andrew Parker's right to reply.
Oh. No.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the councillors who have spoken on this. I want to take first of all Councillor Eastwood's response. She said they are prepared to listen, but you've ignored 4,000 objections last time. So where is the listening? You want to be transparent, yet the website engagement and consultation page did not have the consultation on it. And that is a legal requirement, not only under the organisation code, but under common law, that the wider public, as well as the specified consultees, the statutory consultees, the wider public have to have the opportunity to be able to put their views, and that was denied them until Monday. You mentioned about financial pressures. Then why were not other options considered? Why was there not an options appraisal? Again, that is a legal requirement which has not been met. You mentioned about ageing school buildings. Yes, some school buildings are aging. Some need a lot of repairs. But St Anthony's and St David's are not in that specific category. They do not need huge amounts of money to repair them, as you well know, Councillor Eastwood. There have been significant failures in this consultation process. We don't know what went wrong with the last one. We know that it was as a result of the legal challenge that it was suspended or stopped, but we don't know why the legal issues caused it to be stopped. There hasn't been that debate, there hasn't been that transparency. We're also concerned about the perception of predetermination, that this consultation is basically a repeat of the last one with a few added facts added in. It does not reflect listening. It gives the impression to those watching this broadcast that it has all been predetermined and nothing has changed. No one's going to listen to people's views. So I want to just finish really with what's going to happen next if this motion is not passed. The consultation will run its course, I guess, and there will be, as eggs are eggs, a legal challenge. You can just see that coming. The writing is on the wall, and that's going to result in the council having significant costs, possibly reputational damage. Maybe it will run out of time again. Who knows? But all those are very severe risks, and you can avoid all those risks by voting for this motion so that the whole thing can be considered properly during the summer holidays. And if it needs to be restarted in the autumn, then so be it, but at least do it in a proper, legal, balanced, open and transparent way that the public can have confidence in it. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go to the vote now, and it's a recorded vote, so I will hand over to Gareth.
Thank you, Chair. So, Councillor Glyn Banks. Councillor Banks, Glyn Banks, sorry. Councillor Allport isn't here. You're first on the list today, Glyn, sorry. So, are you for, against, or do you wish to abstain on this notice of motion?
Against, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bateman.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Bibby.
Against.
Thank you. That was against. Councillor Bithell.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Brockley.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, Helen Brown.
For.
That was for, Chair. Teresa's not with us. Councillor Claydon.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Coggins Cogan. For. Thank you. Councillor Collett. That was an abstention, Chair. Councillor Crease is no longer with us. Councillor Rob Davis.
Abstain.
That was an abstention, Chair. Councillor Ron Davis.
Sorry, against.
Thank you. Councillor Eastwood.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Evans. Against. Thank you. Councillor G. Councillor G still online?
For.
Thank you. Councillor David Healy.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Gladys Healy. Councillor Gladys Healy, are you for or against?
She's trying to unmute.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Gladys, when you can unmute. But Councillor Hodge, for. Thank you. Councillor David Hughes. Thank you. Councillor Ibbotson.
For.
Thank you.
Have you got it?
Councillor Healy, Gladys Healy.
Against.
Thank you very much. Councillor Johnson.
Against.
That was against. Councillor Christine Jones.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Jones.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Simon Jones.
Against.
Councillor Lister.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Lloyd. That was against, Chair. Councillor Mackey.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Madison.
Against.
Councillor Marshall.
Against.
Councillor McEwen.
Against.
Councillor Mullin.
Against.
Councillor Owen. That's for, Chair. Councillor Palmer.
Against.
Councillor Parkhurst.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce.
For.
Councillor Michelle Perfect.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Vicky Perfect has left, I think, isn't she? Councillor Priest.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson.
For.
Councillor Roberts.
Against.
Councillor Rose.
For.
Councillor Rush.
Against.
Councillor Salkeld. For. It was for, Chair. Councillor Sylvester. For. Councillor Shallcross. That was against, Chair. Councillor Swash. For. That was for. Councillor Thew.
For.
Councillor Turton.
For.
Oh, getting very musical online there, Chair. Councillor Wakeham. That's an abstention, Chair. And Councillor Wren. Against. Against, thank you. Councillor Popple.
Abstain.
Thank you. And last but not least, Chair, yourself.
Against.
Thank you. Bear with me, Chair.
Chair, excuse me, it's Adele Davis-Cook. You didn't say my name.
I apologise, Adele.
I was after Ron Davis, but I was here.
I do apologise. Yes, no, I accidentally crossed you out. That means I've missed out Arnold as well. So, Councillor Cook.
Do you want my vote first?
Yes, please.
4.
Okay, thank you. I do apologise. I was trying to record who was missing because we've lost 5 people since this morning, and I'd accidentally marked you as being absent. And Councillor Woolley.
4.
That's 4 as well. Okay, thank you. So bear with me, Chair. So, Chair, the votes are 21 for, 26 against, and 5 abstentions.
So notice of motion failed. Next notice of motion, loss of sense, 100% of the debt, 0% of the ownership, and this is proposed by Councillor Coggins-Cogan, and the seconder will be Councillor Andrew Parker. So, Councillor Coggins-Cogan.
Thank you, Chair. I move the motion, loss of sense, 100% of the debt and 0% of the ownership. The core of the motion is the question: who decided on behalf of Flintshire taxpayers to pay the full £8.3 million local contribution, and when? Was that decision made by Cabinet? If so, where is the Cabinet report? Where was the decision? Where was the scrutiny? Where was the member oversight? Whilst taxpayers have been forced to foot the cost of the building, the taxpayer pays, the taxpayer borrows, the taxpayer carries the interest, but the taxpayer does not own the building. They are being told it is not theirs. That should trouble every member in this chamber. We have been here before, Chair, at a previous budget setting. Despite objections from my group, the Liberal Democrat group, Council voted through the defunding of the public toilets. When that particular bird came home to roost with the imminent closure of the toilets in Mould, members in this chamber and privately said, I didn't know what I was voting for. This is that moment again, but on a much larger scale. No member will be able to say, I didn't know I was committing £77 million of your money and gifting it to the Diocese of Wrexham. I guarantee that the locals next year, such feigned ignorance will not be an excuse. I'm asking members, especially backbench members in the administration groups, did you know? Did you know that the council is proposing to pick up the full local contribution of £8.25 million? Did you know that this would be borrowed? Did you know that the building would then leave council ownership, our ownership? And if you did not know, then surely you should support this motion. This motion is asking for information and nothing more than that. The motion does not decide the future of the schools, and it does not ask members to settle the whole proposal today. It's simply asking for clarity before Cabinet goes any further. Who made the decision? When was it made? When was Cabinet told? What was the diocese asked to contribute? What's the legal basis for transferring the asset to the diocese? And perhaps most fundamentally of all, why should Flintshire taxpayers carry the can when our infrastructure and roads are crumbling? That is not unreasonable. It is basic financial responsibility. There's no reason not to vote for this motion except for blind partisan interest. This is simply asking for information, nothing more. The Cabinet has made a decision to commit us to borrowing over a 50-year period. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask who made the decision and when. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Parkhurst.
Thank you, Chair. I reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Councillor Maradiswood.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Can I just say at the beginning that I'm not sure a decision has been made. It's at the proposal stage and it's subject to consultation. So no final decision has yet been made, and I thought it's important to clarify that at this point. The transfer of the building to the diocese is not a discretionary giveaway. It reflects the legal structure of voluntary aided schools, which has existed nationally for decades. The purpose of this investment is not to create a commercial asset for the council to retain. It is to secure sustainable, high-quality school places for children in Flintshire. I would remind you that the council has a statutory duty to provide sufficient school places, ensure those places are fit for purpose, and organise provision efficiently across the area. That duty applies regardless of who owns the building. In this case, the investment delivers a modern, efficient school, reduced surplus capacity elsewhere, lower long-term maintenance pressures, a more sustainable education system, and ALM provision designed to meet the current needs of our pupils. The question is not who owns the building, but are we delivering the right school places in the right locations in a way that is sustainable for the future? This is not giving something away, it is investing in education provision. Whilst the diocese is the legal owner of land and buildings, the council contributes capital funding because it retains responsibility for place planning. This partnership model is standard across Wales. If Flintshire were to refuse to operate within that framework, it would effectively be saying it will not support faith-based school provision at all, which would be a significant and controversial policy shift. This is not an exceptional or one-off arrangement, it is how the system is designed to operate. The ownership model reflects the legal framework for faith schools. Further, taxpayer value is about outcomes, not asset ownership. The suggestion that taxpayers lose out assumes that value is measured purely by whether the council holds the asset on its balance sheet. This is not the correct test. Taxpayer value should be assessed based on whether the investment improves educational outcomes, whether it reduces inefficiency such as surplus places, whether it avoids ongoing maintenance costs in ageing buildings, and whether it creates a financially sustainable school system. Maintaining multiple underfilled schools in deteriorating buildings does not represent good value for money. In fact, failing to act would likely mean continued inefficiency, higher long-term costs, and reduced educational investment across the system. So to reframe the reality rather than this rhetoric, the council is not giving away a building. It is investing in delivering education provision efficiently. It is doing so within a nationally established legal framework, and it is addressing real pressures of surplus places, funding constraints, and ageing infrastructure. That 70-year-old building today will be 120 years old in 50 years' time if nothing is done. To reduce this issue to giving away something for free risks obscuring the real decision that is required for this school reorganisation. This is not about asset disposal. It is about how we organise and sustain education provision for the future. The real risk to taxpayers is not this investment. It is failing to act while inefficiency, surplus places, and rising costs continue unchecked. Finally, I would remind my members that this proposal impacts on all of our wards. For those children and young people in my own ward who wish to have a faith-based education, I want to be able to say to them that I value and will invest in their education as much as those who wish to attend a local authority school. To my governing body, I want to say that I have fully considered a capital investment into the school estate that will reduce surplus places and release funds back into the overall school budget to be shared equitably across the school network. This proposal promotes equality of opportunity equitable funding distribution across the county, and diversity. Whatever your views on the proposal, it is still subject to consultation, and this matter should be considered, as stated before, by on its own merits and as a separate and distinct item. A vote for this motion is a vote against equality, a vote against equity, and a vote against diversity. And I call for a recorded vote.
We have the necessary
Yep,
10. Thank you.
clearly there are 10 or more than 10 that should be requested for the recorded vote. So next speaker on this is Councillor Richard Jones.
Thank you, Chair. It appears to me that this notice of motion wants members to endorse that it is not right for this council to invest in a voluntary aided school. But then that includes maintenance and repairs also. The ramifications of this notice of motion, if passed, could result in a negative effect on over 2,000 learners in voluntary aided primary and secondary schools across Flintshire. You can't just pick and choose when you want to apply rules to different faiths. That would be discriminatory. So using this logic of this notice of motion could remove funding from all VA schools in Flintshire that would clearly include Church in Wales schools. So let's assess over recent years what that would mean and which Church in Wales schools would lose out. Harden Village, 641,000. Nannock, Nurquis, St Ethelwoods, St John the Baptist, Trellanwood, Whitford and Kerwis. These are schools whose future hangs on a thread, and changes through this notice of motion would lead to many of these schools becoming unsustainable and eventually to closure. Over the last 10 years, the council has invested in excess of 155 million into the Flintshire school estate. Importantly, investing this amount not into just community schools, it has also included significant contribution into voluntary aided schools, reflecting the council's continued commitment to supporting a diverse and inclusive educational system, including faith-based provision where there is demand. That investment in voluntary aided estates over recent years has exceeded 7.2 million. The idea that asking voluntary aided schools to contribute to meet a 15% contribution would have very real consequences for those schools listed and likely lead them into failure. They just couldn't afford it. And that's the stark reality of trying to do the wrong thing for the wrong reasons. Investment in voluntary aided schools has taken place within established national frameworks where the council works in partnership with governing bodies and diocesan authorities to deliver improved facilities. While the ownership of VA school buildings typically rests with the diocese, the council's investment ensures that learners within those settings benefit from the same modern standards, safe environments and high quality provision as learners in other maintained schools. This partnership approach means that public investment is directed towards educational outcomes and system-wide improvements, rather than being viewed solely in terms of asset ownership. It reflects the council's statutory responsibility to ensure sufficient suitable school places across all sectors of provision. It's important to address the claim that public money is being inappropriately directed into assets that are then handed over to the diocese, whether that is Catholic or Church of Wales. It's misleading and incomplete. The council's investment is not made for the purpose of acquiring or retaining property assets. It is made to fulfil a statutory duty to provide sufficient high-quality school places for all children across Flintshire. The ownership model is long established in national legislation. The diocese, as trustees, holds the asset on behalf of the school and its educational purpose, but the school remains part of the state-funded, public accountable educational system. Crucially, public investment is directed towards educational outcomes and not asset outcome ownership. Learners attending VA schools are Flintshire residents, funded through the same public system, entitled to the same quality of educational provision. Therefore, the question is not who owns the building, but are we delivering the best and most sustainable education for our children and young people? To withdraw or restrict investment on the basis of ownership alone would mean treating learners differently depending on their school category, which would be inequitable and inconsistent with the school's responsibilities and fundamental ethos. This is not about debt and ownership, members, or giving public money away. It's about being assured that every pound we invest delivers sustainable, high-quality education to all Flintshire children, regardless of faith. The blindness is not with the administration backbenchers, but it's with the mover and seconder of this notice of motion. Members, I ask you to vote against the resolution to preserve the educational standards through the equitable and fair system that presently exists. Thank you, members.
Councillor Carolyn Priest.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this is something that in education has been brought to the committee lots of times. We have spent many hours debating this, going through. And at the beginning, when the debate first started on the discussions on this, the diocese were paying the maintenance fund. They were, and then that changed when the actual bishop came to the actual meeting to say they had very little money. No further discussion was taking place after that, only that in later meetings it was put forward that the council would be paying that remaining 15%. Now legally, if we go through this, voluntary aided schools, the governing body or religious foundations is legally responsible for a minimum of 10% of capital and maintenance costs, such as buildings, repairs and refurbishment. The remaining 90% or less is funded by the state or UK government, or in Wales, as we are now. So that's legally. So somewhere along the lines, this has got a bit mixed up. The motion today is asking questions, and it's answers to questions. It's not morally about diversity or equity that we are being made guilty in voting for this motion. This is questions that have been asked again, again and again. And my 2-year-old grandson would actually be saying, again, because we haven't had an answer. And he'd be going, why? Well, we need to know the answers. This has gone on for too long now. We need to know the answers. And I'm supporting this motion because this is the only way we're going to get answers, is to ask why, and for the answers to be given. And that's what we're here for. We're representing the people of Flintshire to ask these questions, and we need an answer. So if you do vote against this, you're putting it underneath the carpet and you don't want to know what the answers are. That's what you're voting for. If you vote against this, we need to vote for this so we can actually find out the proper answers. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Mike Pears online, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's quite clear that the motion is about answers that previously haven't been forthcoming. I want to go straight to bullet point number 15. Why no contribution is apparently being required from the Diocese of Wrexham, and why Cabinet believes it's appropriate to give away a publicly funded building while retaining 100% of the debt and 85% of the future repair costs. Obviously, the Cabinet, that's the way they wish to go. So I would like to hear from the Cabinet Member for Education now, what the answers are to those questions. It's not just about giving a building away, it's the year-on-year interest costs on the borrowing, plus all the costs being passed over to the taxpayer to maintain it. So it's a fantastic deal for the diocese, getting something for nothing, but a poor deal for the council taxpayer. So I think rather than wait any length of time for any written answers to this motion, I think the Cabinet Member for Education should now give us the answers to bullet point 15. Thank you, Chair.
This isn't a debate. This isn't a question and answer session, I'm afraid, Chair. members make their points. The cabinet member has already spoken, and without your discretion, Chair, is not allowed to speak again.
Councillor Alistair Ibbotson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I came into this debate thinking I knew where I stood, thinking I knew where pretty much everybody else in this chamber stood, and was not minded to speak and drag things out. But I have been moved to do so by the contribution, and I use the word contribution rather than ramblings because I know he would never use that about another member, of the Deputy Leader. He has said, and he has named a number of schools, including one in my ward, that are, and I quote, hanging by a thread. He's making threats against those schools, against their viability. Now, what does he mean by this? He says that because those are voluntary aided schools, they are at risk if this motion is passed, which a reading of the motion, of the resolves, it renders clearly laughable. But nonetheless, he says they are under threat. So how seriously are we to take this threat? Now, I could be uncharitable here and suggest that when he refers to the Catholic Diocese or the Church of Wales, it suggests that he might not quite be across the detail, given that there is no such organisation as the Church of Wales. It has been disestablished for over 100 years, and it is the church in Wales. But I should not be that uncharitable, so I won't be. Instead, I am going to refer to something else he said, which is that the buildings of voluntary aided schools are typically, and I quote him directly, typically owned by the bodies themselves. Now, that is an interesting word, isn't it? Because it does not mean that they must be. By his own admission, and a cursory glance at voluntary aided schools shows that plenty operate in premises which are not owned by the religious body whose denomination they sit within. I mean, there's a number, certainly in England, which are PFI and owned by outsourcing companies. Does that mean that those voluntary aided schools are operating illegally? Well, no, it clearly doesn't, does it? So by his own tacit admission in the speech that he gave, using the model that has been suggested by my colleagues in the Liberal Democrat group, and which is fully endorsed, I would add, by my own Flintshire People's Voice group, does not pose any threat whatsoever to the schools that he has described as hanging by a thread. So why are these schools, and I quote again, hanging by a thread under the administration that he is a deputy leader in? Either they actually are, in which case this is a serious admission that this administration, this coalition, is going to war not only with the 4 Catholic primary schools, 4 Catholic schools in this motion, but with all of them, and he's looking to impose further closures. If that is what he is saying, it is a frightening admission. Or is this just political verbiage? Does he not actually mean it? Does he not actually think that these schools are hanging by a thread, and he's just saying that to try and scare members? If he is doing that, if he is playing politics with the future of schools across this county, with the education of children across this county to try and bludgeon members in this chamber into voting the way he wants, he is acting shamefully. So which is it? Is this administration seriously threatening those schools? In which case, why are we only finding out about it like this? Or is he just playing politics with Flintshire schools? Neither is acceptable. I think that he ought to seriously consider his position, withdraw his remarks about hanging by a thread, and frankly, whichever the outcome is here, whether he is playing politics or whether he is seriously threatening these schools, the honourable thing for him to do in either event is to resign.
Councillor Alan Marshall, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was in the last education meeting, and the joint archive facility to be built near Theatre Clwyd was discussed. In that arrangement, £2 million is coming from Denbighshire, around £3 million from Flintshire, and Welsh Government providing the remaining £7 million, I The building is in Flintshire, yet Denbighshire is happy to pay for it. They're £2 million for a building they don't own. It's not on their land. They have to travel to use it. This is not new, obviously, because this is just one example. The archive building holds historical records, and the Catholic schools holds our children's future. Thank you.
Councillor Linda Thew online. Just checking that you have...
Diolch, Cadeirydd. I would like to ask a basic question. Has the £8.25 million pounds already been borrowed? I mean, that number is cast in stone, and we all know about the escalating costs of building work. I mean, we can't envisage how much the cost of borrowing will be as in the future. So that rings alarm bells with me. It's not going to be £8.25 million. It's going to be considerably more by the time the work starts, if it ever does. And we all know that pupil numbers are on the decrease for the foreseeable future. The Office of National Statistics bears that out. And I feel today we've talked a lot about faith and the disparity of it being a faith school, but it's not about that. And the reason why people have voted in such large numbers against this is it's about the loss of community in towns. It's the schools are a focal point. These Saltney and Mould are going to lose a huge part of their sense of community, and it's as fundamental as that, and that's why 96% of people voted against this proposal. In the last consultation, I just don't understand why you think there'll be any different outcome to that. And when you start looking at the figures, and the Flintshire won't own it, but will have to pay for the building in the future. It's just, to me, it's a no-brainer, I'm afraid. It just doesn't make sense. But that's my opinion. Thank you. Diolch.
Right, I've got two more speakers, and then I'm keen to go to the vote, which is being requested as a recorded vote. So, Councillor Ian Roberts first, and then Councillor Chris Biffle, the final speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I begin my comments by saying that I am extremely concerned about the turns this debate is taking into what at worst could be described as sectarianism. People of all faiths and no faiths pay their council tax in Flintshire. When it comes, the council tax, it doesn't say, are you a Presbyterian or a Methodist or a Roman Catholic or Church in Wales or of no faith or Islamic. The bills are paid. And as a council, we have a duty to educate the young people of Flintshire to the best of our abilities. Now, as far as I'm aware, we have rebuilt and extended Holywell High School, Connors Quay High School. Proposals are in for St David's in Saltney. Castell Allen in Hope has been substantially remodelled and rebuilt, and so has the Argoed. And in all of this, yes, there may be issues playing in Mould and in Saltney with regard to their primary schools. But the bigger issue here is the future of faith-based education in Flintshire. There is not an Anglican secondary school, and I personally think the Catholic Diocese of Wrexham is to be commended on their vision. At least they have come forward with a vision for the future of their schools that they believe is viable. And I wonder whether this is a model that the Anglican diocese should follow, because I don't really see many proposals for the Anglican diocese schools in Wrexham. I think the comment that was made by one councillor, who I won't name, that getting something for nothing is shocking. They are providing education in St. Richard Gwyn High School for 700 pupils who are choosing a faith-based education and who have a right to that in this country, and a sixth form as well. And as for one of the other comments that was made about playing politics, well, of course, the person who made that comment would know all about playing politics, wouldn't he? Because he is the expert in playing politics in this council and telling us all to do. So I just now, you know, I'm coming to the end of my term. I'm not standing again. Very, very saddened today at the dangerous pushing of the boundary that this debate is going into now, into sectarianism. And we should focus on the children and students of our schools in Flintshire, because they are all our children, our schools, and our council taxpayers. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Chris Biffle, last speaker.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The issue regarding the amount of monies paid in respect to voluntary aided schools is a very long tradition, really, dating back to the first Education Act 1870. I think it was Mr Gladstone, the Liberal Prime Minister at the time's government, that introduced that. And basically, they introduced state education into this country, and they recognised from the outset that they couldn't afford, even in those days, to actually provide state schools in every community. But before they even got going, there were church schools, principally Anglican church schools, and later on, of course, Catholic schools as well. And the government made a very pragmatic decision at that time. It decided that it would fill in the blanks. Where there were no church schools, they would provide a school in those communities and allow the children in those other communities to go to the church school. Those who had religious problems with that because they belonged to a non-conformist faith, or because they were of some other faith, they can opt out of the religious education aspect of that particular school. That's tradition that goes back to the 1870s, as I said, and that's the position we're in now. But we've got a good deal out of this insofar as the state really only actually providing 85% of the costs involved. The other costs, of course, are supposed to come from the diocese. And that's happened traditionally, and it continues today. And it would require a change in legislation to do away with that. And again, what's being forgotten here too, they talk about taxpayers' money, talk about local taxpayers' money here, but the 85% of the contribution from government and from councils comes from taxpayers' money as well. Don't forget that. And again, it's a good deal really for them, but it's also a good deal for everyone in that sense, because the government and local government haven't got the money to do this on a regular basis. So that's a tradition, and it's gone on, and it would require a change of legislation to alter that. There has been questions regarding the 15% in relation to the schools, and there has been rumours, I'm no more aware of anything than that, regarding, for example, that a transfer of land could be involved in actually making up that particular 15%. I don't know. That's just a rumour I've heard, and it came actually from the opponents of the scheme, who were actually saying, you know, basically they're going to hand this land over to the council's going to build on it. Now, I can't really comment on whether that's the case, but that's certainly been rumoured, and it's come from that particular source at the time. So, I mean, the cabinet members said too that there's still discussion in relation to these issues of the 15%, and that's ongoing. But I think, you know, basically we need to be grown up about this and recognise that this has been a long tradition of the way we funded schools in the schools, particularly VA schools. And of course, as has been said, there are others in the county as well, both Church and Wales schools and Catholic schools as well in this particular sense. And to be fair, as I say, the Diocese of Wrexham have recognised what needs to be done. They're very pragmatic, they're very understanding, they're very reasonable about what needs to be done here. And I think we need to recognise too the fact that St Richard Gwyn site, which has been mentioned in this debate, and where the super school will go if it goes ahead, is actually on church land as well, belonging to the Catholic Diocese of Wrexham. And again, I don't think you should forget that too. You know, so the suggestions have been made in the debates that we've had that preferably rather than having the school in Flint, we should build it in Northam. And that sounds grand. But the Catholic Church doesn't own any land in Northam, and neither do we. So that would come at a cost and add to the cost of the total building if you have to acquire land. That land is already there. It's in the ownership of the Diocese of Wrexham, and it's in Flint, and it's where Richard Gwyn stands at the moment, as indeed does St Mary's. So again, that has played part in this particular long-term proposal as well. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so Councillor Andrew Parkhurst reserved his right to speak, so I'd like to call him to speak now.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think, frankly, some of the comments made by the Cabinet Member for Education are rather loose, shall I say. I should choose my words carefully. She mentioned that no final decision has been made. That is technically the case, but it's not the perception, is it? Which members of the public see and feel, and indeed many members of this council feel the same. They feel that the decision has been made, and what is being gone through now is an exercise in a delusional activity. She also mentioned that the legal structure for the arrangement, whether 85% comes from Welsh Government, 15% comes from elsewhere, has been the pattern for decades. What she knows is that 15% comes from the diocese. It does not come from the local council, from local taxpayers. So when other cabinet members keep on repeating this, that it is perfectly normal, it's not perfectly normal. In other schools, other Roman Catholic schools in Wales, the 15% comes from the diocese. Now, the Bishop of Wrexham has said, he's on record of saying that there are no plans to sell land. That, I presume, is the case. But equally, in the consultation document, there is reference to some sort of arrangement over land. Well, we need to know what that arrangement is. We don't know. Please, can someone say what this deal is? Because it seems like a backroom deal that's being conjured up between the diocese and the council, and we, as the council, don't actually know about it, and we do need to know about it. And then Councillor Roberts said that this should be a model for the Anglican diocese. Well, I have to say, I do agree with him. I think I should speak to Bishop Gregory in St Asaph and say, why don't you take advantage of this? You know, you get a multi-million-pound school and you contribute nothing. It's a perfect model for the church or for other faith groups. But that isn't the point, is it? We shouldn't be paying that 15% unless there is equal consideration. Maybe that is in the form of land, but we don't know, and that's what we need to know. And then Councillor Jones, Richard Jones, had this vowed threat, didn't he? And that really shows how low this debate has descended, that veiled threats are being made against councillors who are standing up for the local communities and for schools and for children. So has he let the cat out of the bag? And that is really what all this is all about. And if it is, then we need to know about it. So Chair, this is a very serious matter. We are asking questions, and it just seems that we ought to support this motion in order to get those answers. Thank you.
And the right of reply goes to Councillor David Coggins-Cogan.
Thank you very much, Chair. I will be as brief as I can. First, I'd like to thank the members who have supported the motion, particularly Councillor Priest, who couldn't have put it better myself. We haven't had an answer. That's the entire basis of this motion. We just want to know who made the decision and when. It's incredible that despite repeated requests at the Education Committee, repeated questions at full council, now this notice of motion, we are still not given the answer. I have to commend the Cabinet Member for Education and the Deputy Leader of the Council for their superb reframing of the notice of motion, talking about discrimination and discretionary giveaways and not being controversial, ignoring a consultation where 96% of people oppose something is apparently not controversial. It's just astonishing. It was also mentioned by the Cabinet Member that this will improve educational outcomes. By whose reckoning? Because Estin directly said there is no evidence to suggest that this will improve educational outcomes. So why does the Cabinet Member for Education, who, as I understand, does not have a background in education, know better than Estin? This entire motion is about just wanting to know who made the decision and when the decision was made. That's the issue. I must offer my particular thanks to the Deputy Leader of the Council and Cabinet Member for Growth for saying the quiet part out loud. Outside of this chamber, I have been told that if this proposal doesn't go ahead, eyes will be looking on the schools in my ward. Isn't that, and I haven't been able to repeat that because I thought, well, that was said outside the chamber, that's not a public comment. Thank goodness the Deputy Leader of the Council has said it for me on the record in this debate. If we keep asking questions about these schools, if we oppose them, any councillor on that side, the schools and their wards will be looked at, hanging on by a thread. I mean, whilst I don't normally enjoy interruptions, I have to admire Councillor Ibbotson for crystallising the point. There is a lack of shame in this chamber. And I think my final point will be, Chair, over my career, my previous career and my sort of career in this chamber, I have never been accused as having a lack of confidence. Even I do not have the confidence that the former leader of this council has to accuse a Scottish Catholic of messing around with sectarianism. It is disgraceful and it is shameful to suggest I would do that. Shameful. I was born a Catholic. I was raised a Catholic. To suggest that I am playing politics with my own community is reprehensible. Thank you, Chair.
That takes us to the vote. I'll hand you over to Gareth.
So, thank you, Chair. It is a recorded vote, so we will go from the top. Councillor Allport isn't here, so I'll start with Councillor Glyn Banks. That was against, Chair. Councillor Bateman. That was for, Chair. Councillor Bibby.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Bithell. Was against, Chair. Councillor Brockley.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
For.
That was for, Chair. Councillor Claydon.
Against.
Councillor Coggins-Cogan.
For.
Councillor Collett. That was an abstention, Chair. Councillor Rob Davis.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Ron Davis.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Davis Cook.
For.
Thank you. And do apologise again for earlier. Councillor Eastwood.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Evans. Against. Councillor Chrissy G.
For.
Thank you. Councillor David Healy.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Gladys Healy.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Hodge.
For.
Thank you. Councillor David Hughes. Thank you. Councillor Ibbotson.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson. Thank you. Councillor Christine Jones.
Against.
Councillor Richard Jones.
Against.
Councillor Simon Jones.
Against.
Councillor Lister.
For.
Councillor Lloyd. That was against. Councillor Mackey.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Madison.
Against.
Councillor Mansell isn't with us. Councillor Marshall.
Again, against.
Thank you. Councillor McEwen.
Against.
Councillor Mullin.
Against.
Councillor Owen. Thank you. That was 4. Councillor Palmer.
Against.
Councillor Parkhurst.
For.
Councillor Pearce.
For.
Councillor Michelle, perfect.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Priest.
For.
Councillor Richardson.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts. Councillor Roberts.
Sorry, against.
Thank you. Councillor Rose.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Rush. Is Councillor Rush still with us online?
He might have had to use hospital.
No, I think he's left. Yep. Councillor Solkeld.
For.
That was 4, Chair. Councillor Sylvester's had to go to work. Councillor Shallcross. Yes. Thank you. Councillor Swash.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Thew.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Turton.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Wakeham. Councillor Woolley.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Wren. Against. Councillor Cockle.
For.
And yourself, Chair.
Against.
So that was 23 for, 26 against, and abstention, Chair.
Yeah, so that notice of motion is not carried. I'm aware that we're coming up to 2 hours since we reconvened the afternoon session. However, I'm going to take the next notice of motion before taking a quick respite break. So regulation of high occupancy visitor accommodation in Wales, and this will be proposed by Councillor Fran Lister and seconded by Councillor Simon Jones. Fran Lister.
Diolch. Thank you for allowing me to bring this notice of motion to full council, my very first one. This motion is about high occupancy visitor accommodation. It's not about ordinary holiday lets, and it's not an attack on tourism. There are many holiday lets in my ward, and they act responsibly and contribute positively to the economy. This motion does not affect the vast majority of holiday accommodation in Flintshire. There are, however, under the same planning and tourism legislation, some properties which are being marketed for high occupancy groups, corporate events and celebrations. They are large, very high value properties, which are not operating like traditional holiday lets. They include entertainment rooms, casinos, bars, outdoor spaces, sound, lighting systems, and facilities designed for large groups. They are like private clubs, but ones which you can have rooms to stay in. The impact of such properties on nearby residents is incredibly distressing. Residents are being subjected to noise and disturbance weekend after weekend. Shall I just wait?
Can we give the, good manners to listen to what Councillor Franlis is bringing us? This is an important motion for her residents. Thank you. Continue.
Thank you. Yeah, these types of properties are causing a huge amount of disturbance weekend after weekend, and into the early hours of the morning. And I'm not exaggerating when I say some of my residents or residents in my ward are at breaking point with this. Flintshire officers are responding using the legislation that they currently have available. And my thanks really do go to the officers in the Community and Business Protection team for the work they are doing to support Flintshire residents. It is really very much appreciated. In discussion with those officers, it's become clear that the current legislative framework limits what councils can do to address the noise and antisocial behaviour that goes hand in hand with these type of properties. And when businesses who often live out of the area can respond by saying that they've taken reasonable steps to minimise noise and disturbance, when the reality is that the same reasonable steps need to be taken weekend after weekend after weekend as new guests arrive to enjoy their party weekend. The living conditions of those living in close vicinity to those properties, it just never improves. So the legislation is not strong enough to make a difference to the communities surrounding these properties. This is already an issue for us in Flintshire, and I know of at least one other local authority in North Wales that are experiencing similar challenges in responding to the problems caused by this kind of property, which is why this motion calls on Welsh Government to introduce stronger licensing powers for high occupancy visitor accommodation. Councils need the ability to set conditions in advance, including noise management, controls on outdoor entertainment spaces, and meaningful sanctions when disturbance is repeated. This is a live and very emotive issue in my ward at the moment, but unless the legislative gap is closed, it could be any one of your wards tomorrow. So I bring this notice of motion to full council to draw on the knowledge and experience of all members, and I hope that you will support this motion. Diolch yn fawr.
Councillor Simon Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to second this notice of motion. I have been contacted by people who live next door to such a property who have given me their permission to use their names. Alex and Guy are just one of many families who are living through what can only be described as a nightmare. Every weekend from dusk until dawn, they are subjected to nightclub level noise from a neighbouring property just 4 metres away from their home. This property has in the past been actively advertised and marketed online as a party house, specifically to attract groups looking to celebrate and party late into the night. The result is devastating for those who live nearby. The simple enjoyment of family life in their own home has become impossible. They feel trapped, unable to enjoy their property and believing they would struggle to sell it because any prospective buyer would quickly discover the ongoing disturbance next door. It's not simply an inconvenience, it raises fundamental questions about people's rights. Article 8 of the Human Rights Act protects the right to respect for private and family life and the right for a person's home. These rights should include the ability to live peacefully and safely in your own home without enduring persistent and excessive disturbance. Yet there remains a significant gap in the powers available to local authorities, where properties are deliberately operated in a way that causes ongoing harm to surrounding communities. Councils have limited ability to intervene through planning or licensing legislation alone. That is why I'm proud to second this notice of motion. It is about giving councils the tools they need to protect residents and restore balance between visitors and permanent communities, and ensure that no other family has to endure the misery that Alex and Guy and many others are experiencing today. I urge members to support this motion.
Councillor Carolyn Priest.
Thank you, Chair. As one of my past lives of doing different things, of being North East Wales tourism ambassador. I've sat on many Pan Wales meetings regarding this topic has actually come up. It's not about stopping tourism at all. The doors are open, and as it says, we are the gateway to Wales. We are. It's about limiting unsocial behaviour. That is what we're talking about. Antisocial behaviour that affects residents near to the dwellings that this is taking place at. And that is exactly what they're doing in other countries. You see it in Spain, all over the place. They've done protests in the streets. They do not want drunken people, etc., on the streets. And we don't want them in those houses, which are then going to be a knock-on effect for families. I fully support this. And I would say we need to make sure that it gets to the right departments there, that this is a new type of license that comes out. We're not saying no, we're saying yes to tourism, but we're saying no to unruly disturbances and parties. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Paul Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's very rare to have a motion like this, which is virtually accepted and will be voted on by every single member of this chamber. It's been proposed by members from two different groups. I know it's got has the support of the Labour group, and what Councillor Priest was saying, it certainly has the support of the FPV, Lib Dems. I think that we should just move to the vote and show our unanimous support for what I consider to be a very, very sound motion. And let's not forget, as Councillor Lister was saying, there are other councils in this situation who are dealing with the difficulties that these situations go and create. And I think we should acknowledge that, as Councillor Priest was saying, we're not against tourism, but let's work with the other councils in North Wales to present a solid front against this sort of thing happening. Thank you, Chair. And can I move a closure motion and we go to the vote, please?
Councillor Johnson, I just want to say that I've got one more speaker on the list and then we will be going to the vote. So
in that case, I hope you're as brief as I was.
Councillor Glyn Banks, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try my best, Councillor Johnson. Just wanted to say I totally concur with Councillors Lister and Jones, because every single word they said could have been spoken by Councillors Madison and Councillors Banks, because we've also got one of these in our ward, and it's an absolute nightmare for the local neighbours. And as you've already been mentioned, it's nothing to do with trying to stop tourism. In fact, we want to increase tourism, but we want the right kind of tourists to come here, not party houses, which are causing nightmare for people. So fully supportive. Thank you very much, Chair.
And then very last speaker is Councillor Adele Davis-Cook, who, sorry, I didn't see your hand going up. So you are the very last speaker on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. You'll have to bear with me. I'm in quite a bit of pain because I have hurt my back. I have a holiday barn, and when I'm in planning, on the planning committee, this has been one thing that I've always gone on about, which probably some of the planning members will know. The thing is that planning is the most important thing, and it's where we are allowing these holiday cottages or barns and places for tourism to be built. I live sort of more or less, well, we're on our own here, which we don't disturb anybody, and it should be taken into consideration. So I will be supporting this, but it is to do with planning and it is to do with the government legislation. And I hope that they will stress the point, you cannot have these holiday tourist places right next door to people who have never, ever had anything like it in their lives. It's bad enough at times, but we're the owners, of a property, and we've taken it, on the chin when people have been in hot tubs and screaming and dancing and doing whatever they want to do to enjoy their weekend or week. So, please get the legislation right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis-Cook. Are you therefore declaring a personal interest there, just to clarify?
Could you clarify with me, Gareth, whether or not it is okay or not?
I prompted the chair, so yes, I would say it might be wise, Councillor Davis. It's fine, you can, we have the item at the start of the meeting, but you can declare them during the course of the meeting as well. So.
Right. Well, I hadn't sort of realised because I've been up and down.
Okay, thank you. So the right of reply, if they so wish, goes to Councillor Fran Lister.
I've written down nothing because it seems that I have unanimous support. So thank you all very much for your support. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
We'll move straight to the vote then. All those in favour of this notice of motion, please raise your hand in the chamber and online.
Not quite. Chair, right. I was going to say I make that 49 in favour, Chair. I make that 50 in favour, Chair. So yes, it's unanimous, Chair.
Unanimous. So that's carried. And I'll propose a short break, and we can reconvene at 3:55. Thank you.